in the 45th. You guys are the hot spot, as you probably know, 2017, right? This is where the rubber hits the road. As Ken said, my name is Jaxon Ravens. I currently serve as chair of the Washington State Democratic Party. I was elected in 2014, so it's been a couple of years. I've had a couple of times to come out here to the 45th and to the East Side Dinner and a few other events like that. The first thing I want to say is I want to say thank you. I know there's a lot of people in this room who put a lot of effort and heart into not just this last election cycle, but like work over the past decades of a lifetime of hard and committed work to both Democratic and progressive causes. And I really appreciate that. That makes all the difference that we stand up for our values. I want to thank you for everything you did this last cycle. I'm really proud of the fact, although it was chaotic, let's admit it, that the precinct caucuses on March 26th, we had about 250,000 attendees, which makes them the largest caucuses in the history of the United States. It probably felt like that too, didn't it? You're a little bit like, oh my gosh, what's good? And like two or three of you. And I recognize and I understand that we've outgrown the caucus system and we need to look at ways to transition into something else. At the same time, not to give up the fact that it's important to talk to each other and share the fact of why we're Democrats and why we're there. So largest precinct caucuses, which is great because this year we have a lot of new names, we have a lot of new faces. Some of you might be your first time here. Also, I'm really happy to say in 2016 we have the highest number of elected precinct committee officers in the last 10 years and possibly in the last couple decades, which is fantastic. That's a great metric of success for you guys, for local party organizations, doing the outreach, getting people involved, getting them engaged. And so those are good things to be to start with as we start moving forward. We've got, as I said, we've got a ton of work to do this year. But part of us, I know, we really want to take a look back at 2016 and figure out what worked and what didn't, why it worked and why it didn't. And that's important, I agree, that those kind of metrics and that kind of review is very important. But that's not why we're here. We're not here for metrics and meetings. We're here for heart, right? We're here because we have values, because we believe that we can move forward with change and that we can move forward with our progressive values and our democratic beliefs, and that we can elect elected officials who are going to support those things, who are going to actively turn that into legislation. And the way that we can do that is by having strong and robust local party organizations that are going to support those organizations. I strongly believe that the best role of the state party is to be there for local party organizations. And it's not always easy because the resources are not always as vast as we would like them to be. One of the challenges we had this last cycle was we usually expect in a presidential year to see a lot of assistance from the DNC or from the presidential candidates campaign. We got neither of those this last year. The DNC did some very questionable things that we're all very frustrated about and damaged our brand up and down the ticket and left us kind of a loss. And that was very frustrating. And I really think, I'm really happy to know that we're going to be electing a new DNC chair. We're going to be revitalizing that organization in new and different ways. The second thing is that in 2008, 2012, the Obama campaign invested between $500,000 and $1 million in Washington State for campaign-related activities. We had a very good field organization. We were able to work up and down the ticket on the work that needed to be done. In 2016, even though we repeatedly asked and were very, very diligent in our efforts, we found that the Clinton campaign contributed zero to the state of Washington last cycle. We're not the only ones, but they chose to focus on some targeted states to their detriment, obviously, to their huge detriment, to all of our detriment, right? Because that meant that the plans that we had for our coordinated efforts and those kind of things were drastically scaled back. In addition, myself as chair and my staff and others really had to go to the mat on fundraising to make sure we could do what we had to do. And I'm really proud of the coordinated campaign we ran last year. We had some good, strong, hardworking young men and women across this state who are going to be working on campaigns and are going to be future leaders and activists in the party for a long time to come. Again, this year we've got some new faces, we've got some new ideas, and that's great. We need to embrace that change. The state party, 5 things that we really need to focus and reinvest in and make sure that the DNC is also on board and that new leadership's on board. I'm not going to go into too much detail because you've got a lot to do. But as you all know, we got to make sure we raise the money. It's very important. I was happy to have raised, to bust my high donor budget by about 80% last year, which just required a lot of phone calls and building relationships. We obviously need to work on our technology and our data management. We're bringing on a new data director at the state party, whose sole focus is going to be to take the data we had from last year and the modeling we had from last year and make sure that you guys can use it. Because if you can't use that data, it's worthless. So training and activities. Third on the list is going to be a robust field program, which is hard because it's not cheap. When you bring people on board, it actually, with salary and healthcare and everything else, it costs about $100,000. So we're working to reinstate the 50-state strategy program that Howard Dean had. Some of you might remember that. I've been talking to the DNC candidates, and we are committed to making sure that we get the money to have that field staff.
49 state districts too?
Well, I think that all the DNC leadership needs to be committed to a county-by-county program. Because I think that Washington State is too often seen as a blue state, and it's just given a stamp, you're a blue state, go for it. And that's wrong. We aspire to be a blue state, right? We aspire, but we're a purple state, and it's wrong for us to go into red districts and say, we're a blue state, what's wrong with you, right? We need to, anyway, I digress. I digress. But let me just say that, fundraising, technology, field, communications, services that we provide when you call a state party to just make sure that you've got what you need from us are really important. But I think the most important thing is that sixth thing. It's that sixth sense. And what that is heart, right? I think all too often, as we noticed last year, we had a lot of meetings. It was frustrating. We did a lot of review, and what we need to do is remember why we're Democrats and why we're progressives and why we're here. We need to reinvest and re-engage in our community organizations. We need to be present in those spaces, because when people see us there, it's gonna bring that out in them. It's gonna start conversations. So I think one thing to look at maybe as an LD is not just to have a meeting every month, but maybe to have a meeting one month and the next month do a service project. Maybe go to a picket line. Maybe go to a local meeting and say, everybody go to your local county, your local city hall meeting and come back and report on that. There's a lot of opportunity for us to get involved, and that's what's going to make a difference going forward. The state party is here for you. We are one of a number of entities that are out there. I wish we had all the money in the world and that we made all the decisions, but there's the House caucus and the Senate caucus, and we need to be strong to stand up to them. And there's the DNC and the DGA and other organizations, and we need to be strong and make sure our voices are heard with them. So I really appreciate everything done. As I said, we've got a lot of work to do. I started my work in the Democratic Party as a volunteer bartender. They needed somebody to make Irish coffees. And I said, I don't know how to make them. I can drink them. I'll do my best. And I stood behind that table with my black pants and white shirt, and nobody said anything, but they put a few dollars in the tip jar. But I kept coming back, like many of you. And I realized that we've done a lot of stuff. Last 10 years, marriage equality, right? Legalized, a more responsible approach toward marijuana. A couple of initiatives that we passed about responsible approaches toward firearms. Very, very important. We just passed a statewide minimum wage, right? Now, I'm not saying everything's rosy, because we got a lot of work to do, because this isn't a blue state, right? But we can be there for those places that need help, because we are the ones that can make that happen. And you guys, by winning that Senate seat this year, that's it. That's it. Every single one of you, right? Everywhere I go in the state, I keep talking about you, because that's what we've been working for, is that seat, and that's going to make a difference. So thank you for everything you've done. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Take care. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.